So finally, we're honored to have Jenny Osbourne here from TPAS. Jenny Osbourne is a member of the British Order. She was basically knighted for her role in tenant engagement. Jenny runs one of the leading tenant engagement organizations in the UK, and she's an expert in the best ways to involve tenants in many areas of public policy, but certainly in making sure their housing works for them, especially when a lot of change is involved. So thank you, Jenny. Come on up.
Well, I'm speaker number 6 of this morning, so I'm hoping you're going to bear with me, and I'm going to keep you engaged. I will speed up a little bit than I planned to do, just because I know we want to get to questions and answers. But thank you for that. My name is Jenny Osbourne. I run an organisation called TPAS. And who are we? Well, we are a tenant engagement organisation. We work across the whole of England, and we work with social housing landlords, so local authority councils or housing associations, and with tenants groups. And we cover, in that membership organisation, about 2.2 million homes across the whole of England, which isn't all of the homes, but it's a significant amount of them. And what are we trying to do? Why do I get out of bed in the morning to run an organisation called TPAS? Well, what we're trying to do is make sure that tenants and communities across England are having the opportunity to having conversations that have that matter, but have real power to influence decisions, whether that be at a local level, whether that be at a regional level, or whether that be at government level and policy making level. It's having conversations that mean something and bringing people together to do that. So, talking about bringing tenants and landlords together, it's about an equal partnership. I'm probably going to say that a few times through this presentation, so apologies for that if I repeat it, but I think it's important. That's the premise that we work from, equal partnerships, with people getting equal things out of that partnerships. And why do we do that? Why do I think tenants and landlords and contractors and builders and developers, why do I think all of those should do working together? Well, I think that the facts prove it, that if you bring people together you find the solutions you're looking for, and often that's about improving services. So particularly now, day-to-day engagement, we are working with tenants to help their landlord find ways to improve the services, to do things quicker, to do things cheaper, to do things better for the communities. Tenant engagement delivers that. I think tenant engagement should be about saving money, providing efficiencies, describe it whichever way you want to, but let's not be ashamed about we need to save money, and tenant engagement can help do that in organisations. But I think, and I'm sure all of us in this room are the same, what we always want to do is bring that lasting change in communities. We're not looking for quick fixes here. There are no quick fixes in housing. I think we all know that. So we're looking for that lasting change in communities. So I'm going to just talk very briefly, because we've heard some specific examples. I'm just going to talk kind of quite generally now about what I would call the case for engagement. Why would you do engagement? Why would you do engagement of tenants and landlords? What's the purpose? What do you gain out of it? Well, I always talk very simply about 3 reasons why you would do engagement. And depending on where we are politically in England, in the cycle that goes on politically and financially and all of these things, some of these things rise to the top more than others, but they're all reasons why you would do it, and they are actually all equal reasons why you would do it. I'll focus on the more boring one first. Let's get that out of the way. Government, regulation. We kind of get told to do it in England. We have to do tenant engagement. Sarah talked before about the Decent Homes programme, and one part of the Decent Homes programme that Sarah really focused on, what it was about making sure you had to involve tenants. If you wanted the money from government to be able to release the stock, to be able to build, to be able to do what you wanted to do, then you had to prove that you'd engage tenants. And that's really, really helpful if government are taking a strong lead on that and saying this has to happen. We've then sort of dipped and moved a little bit with engagement over the last few years. But I think, what we've seen in England now, since the Grenfell tragedy in London 2 years ago, we're seeing tenant engagement and the regulatory need to have tenant engagement built into social housing is going right back up the agenda, and we're seeing more regulation about tenant engagement. You have to do it if you want to be a provider of social housing. Some do it better than others, but you have to do something. Secondly, why would you do it? Well, there's an absolutely overwhelming social, personal reason why you would do engagement. Loads of examples, loads of facts that tell you getting tenants and communities engaged with their landlord brings benefit to them in terms of the skills, in terms of confidence, in terms of their connection into their community as volunteers, in terms of their connections with local stakeholders, all the things that can come from that. But it's not just tenants, it's staff as well. They benefit from good engagement. It's no surprise that I go across England, going into various organisations, and the organisations I walk into where staff are looking vibrant, empowered, they want to do things, they're really proactive, are the organisations where there is good tenant engagement because it's partnership working. So loads of social reasons why you would do it. And the third reason, which is the one we've really focused on over the last 5 years in England, is the business case for doing engagement. The business case is proven. We've had loads of research on this. Involving tenants makes good business sense. It translates into pounds saved, dollars saved in your case. There's loads of examples of doing that. Why would you not involve the people that are going to be using, are going to be living in your product, in your units? Why would you not involve them? Why would you not use their intelligence, their free consultancy, as Jeff talks about, to give you the solutions that you're looking for? Contractors and housing providers across England have fully understood the business case for involving tenants and the difference it makes to their business. That's why we do engagement in England. But you might be guilty of this because we've all been guilty of it in England as well. Do we often just go and engage when we actually want something? So we all might sit here going, oh, yeah, it's great engaging. It's a good idea, this. But let's only do it really when we want something from somebody. And that is not what we are looking for, and that's not what constitutes good engagement. I am going to race through these a little bit because I'm conscious of time. What we say is tenant engagement is not something that you just do, you just pick up whenever you feel like it. Tenant engagement is a way you run a business as a housing provider. Tenant engagement is something that is embedded throughout the way you run your organisation. It's not a thing, it's the way of being. And we've got 6 principles, if you like, that we think engagement is placed upon. So I'll race through these a little bit, but there's loads of more information on our website if you want to look at it. So the first one is, if you're going to do engagement, make sure it's linked to your engagement strategy, it's linked to your business plan. I've been in too many organisations where the business plan for the next 10, 15 years for that housing association is written, and it hasn't mentioned residents once in that business plan. And they're the people that live in the homes. Bit of an omission, I would say, in most organisations. The best business plans that I see are often the ones where the board, the management board, where the chief exec, people like Kate, where the residents that live in the homes have all gone away for 2 or 3 days to somewhere and have worked together to think about what the business strategy is going to be for the next 10 to 15 years. Let the people who are going to be living in your assets help you decide what the strategy should be. Otherwise, you know what? It won't happen. You won't get engagement. It'll just get forgotten about because it's not in the big shiny business strategy that everybody looks at. You've got to embed it in there from the first place. Secondly, you've got to put some resources into it. Now, in the scheme of things, resident involvement doesn't cost a lot of money. It really doesn't. But I'm not going to pretend you can do it for free. Sorry, people, it doesn't work like that. You've got to put some money into resident engagement. You've got to help make sure the staff to support tenants. You've got to make sure there's access for training for tenants, to resources to go to other events like this. All of this sort of thing needs some money to make it work. I think the other thing that we do in England we've not always got right is if we're going to do engagement, you've got to make sure it's a two-way communication of information. So landlords can provide information to tenants, but equally tenants can provide information back to landlords and insight. But making sure you provide information in a way that people want to see, read, will understand. That's really, really important. And in England, what we've been doing over the last few years is really even elevating the role of tenants even more in housing associations, and making sure that they've got a real role in scrutinising the services that a landlord's providing. So typically, a group of tenants will take a service that a landlord provides, I don't know, let's take its policy on antisocial behaviour in an area. They will look at that, the tenants group, and they'll say, you know what, we think you could do better on this, this and this. Here are some recommendations about how you could do that better. Really letting the tenants take power and control and give solutions to the staff to do things better. That's really, really important. I think another principle is community engagement, and I think you do a lot of that really well here. You know, there's lots for me to learn here while I've been around. But making sure that you're doing more than just engaging tenants in the organisation. It's what we do in the wider community as well. We don't just manage homes, do we? We manage areas, we manage public buildings, we manage lots of things as well. And finally, I'd say, in terms of these, is really value it. When you get it right, when you do it well, communicate it, celebrate it, be proud of that tenant engagement, don't hide it. Tell other people about what you've done. Tell your local politicians about how you, as an affordable housing provider, as a city council, or whoever, when you've done great engagement with tenants, let's talk about it and let's tell people what people can do in the future as well. Very briefly, one of the things that stock transfer did back in 2010, what Sarah talked about before, decent homes, is we created a lot more housing associations. So many of them from that now, we have what's called kind of menus of involvement, all the different ways that tenants can be involved in an organisation. These are just a few examples. Most housing associations in this country will have some kind of variation on this. So what might we have at the top? Well, in terms of kind of the big power, if you like, and I really am clear about using the word power, tenants having power in an organisation, they'll be on the board. So they'll be making those big multi-million pound decisions along with other people, along with accountants and financiers and everybody else. They'll be part of that. There'll be the scrutineers I just talked about, with real power to say to people like Kate, we need to change services. This isn't right. So that kind of power is built in. We've got things like procurement panels. So my team spend a lot of time training tenants, for example, so that they can sit on the panels that will appoint repairs contractors, that will ask the questions to contractors directly, along with the head of asset management, whoever, and say, you know, when you come in our homes and you're going to do some repairs, how respectful are you going to be when you come in my home? How are you going to treat me? How quickly do you do the work? And they will ask questions as part of that deal as well. That's real power as well. We need to train people to be able to do that, but it's important. We have things like performance groups. So again, tenants will look at how well have we done on collecting rent in the last 3 months. And tenants will look at that performance, they'll see how people are doing, all part of this mix of working together. And then some of the kind of more, if you like, easier ways of being involved, there'll be lots of these kind of things. Mystery shopping, where tenants ring up the housing association in secret and test service. How good? When did the phone get answered? Was the person that answered the phone polite? Did they help me with my query they had? Did they get back to me when they said they were going to get back to me? And we report that back to the staff so they can improve things. All of these things, and there's many, many more besides. Lots of examples of this. The other side of what TPAS do, and part of our work, is in regeneration, the stuff that Jeff in particular has just been talking about. And we have a real specific role in that is more than just training tenants. We have a real belief that if tenants should be and have a right to be engaged in any redevelopment of their homes, they have a right to be heard, and crucially, they have an equal part in the solutions and the agreements. And I talk about compromises there, and I think Kate picked up on this. The reality is we're all going to have to compromise if we're coming together in a partnership. Everybody can't give up. Everyone can't be expected to win everything. But actually, what Kate was alluding to was a win-win-win if we all agree to compromise and tenants to be an equal part of any discussion. So we place tenants very much in that equal partnership between developer and housing association. But the only way you can do that, if it's going to be genuine, if you're going to do it really and mean it, if you're going to take tenants with you as equal partners, you have to be willing to develop really meaningful options for them to think about, not tokenistic options, not options that aren't really the truth. It's got to be meaningful. And base that on what the community's telling you. Just like Jeff talked about, if you base it on the community wants and needs, you're going to make sure you bring tenants with you and with real commitment to what you're trying to do. We offer something called, this isn't a plug, by the way, I'm just trying to explain kind of what we do. We offer a service called Independent Tenant Advisors, and I think it's really crucial in any redevelopment work that might be going on in terms of thinking about what might happen. We act as a kind of a little bit, you might describe as a middleman between the housing association, the developer, and the tenants group to make sure the tenants group are absolutely getting access to the right information, that tenants are getting the financial information that's on the table. They are seeing the viability statement. They are seeing what the impact's going to be on the environment. They are understanding how much money is on the table and what they can and can't ask for. An equal partner at the table is really important. So we do that role, and that role involves making sure that you give tenants, in particular, we found training to make sure they understand the housing picture that we're operating in. Otherwise, you're expecting people to make decisions with half the information missing, and that's worse than not consulting people at all, in my opinion. And very quickly, just finally, we talked about decent homes and the big push that happened, but we're still ongoing. Many of our properties in England are still not decent, as Sarah talked about. One such area we're currently working in is a place called Serpentine Court. This is in Milton Keynes. This is an area where these houses, people are living in these, they're infested with pigeons. If you walk up the stairwells, one of the tenants we were working with a few months ago walked up the stairwell and a huge lump of concrete dropped into her child's buggy. These are dreadful, dreadful conditions. It's part of a huge project in Milton Keynes. There's various kind of estates, and Serpentine Court is actually a really small part of it. They've kind of separated themselves off because it's so bad, the housing that they've got there. But it's part of a £1 billion upgrade that the council is looking to take put in place. And we've been working with those tenants, a very small group of tenants, a steering group, to say, well, what are your options? What's on the table here, really, for your future? And there was 3 options on the table. One of that was no regen at all, so let's just do nothing. So let's not go any further on this, we'll just stay as we are. But even to stay as you are, the council worked out that would cost them £5.8 million just in the very basic repairs, and even they aren't really happening. The second option was partial regeneration, so trying to get in there and do the best we can with new kitchens, new windows, etc. That would have still cost £73.2 million. Tenants knew this, they saw all of these figures. And the third option was demolish all of the 199 properties that are on that estate, but replace it with 400 new ones, of which those tenants would have the right to go back in. And that was a cost of £75.3 million. We had an 85% turnout on that ballot of tenants on that estate. So it's only a small one, I appreciate that. And 93% of the tenants that estate voted for option number 3, full demolition and new homes to be built. I think the key thing for me here is it's led by a very, very small group of tenants, very young tenants, who took a decision that, you know what, we've got to think long-term future here. These homes are not going to get any better anytime soon, and I want my children to grow up on this estate, and how can I do that? But they took the decision. We influenced them in no way. We just gave them the options for them to have a look at. So I want to end on them, because you've heard a lot from all of us up here, so indulge me for a couple of minutes. It is a bit of a TPAS promotional video. I'm not trying to sell anything to you, but genuinely I'm not. So it's a bit TPAS-tastic. But if you can ignore that, I hope what it'll just give you is the voices of tenants from Milton Keynes, the young tenants, some of them in particular, but also we'll just show you a little bit of another estate in England to complement what Jeff's been saying as well. Thank you.
We chose TPAS to be our ITA due to having so much to offer us and support us through the regeneration.
I voted for TPAS because one of the TPAS lived on the Lakes estate, and so they knew what this estate is like, and that's the reason why I went for them. And they answered the questions that I asked and showed really interested because the others didn't, and they're very helpful.
Kevin's been really helpful with the waste management because we have really bad waste on Serpentine. We're currently going through a lot of training with that, trying to get that sorted out, and it's coming along really well. I'm currently vice chair on the steering group, and Emma's been training us and bringing bits of information over that we need and getting us on the right track that we need to be on.
They've been showing us what the plans are and teaching us what to do, and they're very helpful.
Being there to support us, to help us through this whole regeneration. We're doing a course which they're helping us be better chairs and deputies.
I hope that everyone gets a fair point, gets a fair say, and the outcome will be really good for everybody.